if you are playing competitive chess and participate in tournaments, there's sometimes where your opponent just out-prepared you and you never got a chance to find into the game. At least this happened to me a couple of times. And in the game we are going to look at Maria Muzychuk against Vaishali. The white player is the former women world champion in Vaishali, a strong international master and the sister of Pragananda, one of the strongest grandmasters of our time. And white is going to be out-prepared, and if you want to know how this game ends, stay until the end, because it's very beautiful. So Maria Muzychuk, playing the white pieces, decides to go for e4, and the black player Vaishali decides to play the Sicilian. White plays knight f3, black plays knight c6, and now white decides to go for the Rossolimo with bishop to b5. Black plays the very typical g6 line, and white decides to take on c6, destroying the structure of black, but on the other hand giving black the pair of bishops. And now the typical move here was d takes c6, then might follow d3, bishop g7 and h3 to avoid bishop to g4. But recently, or in the last years to be more accurate, Boris Gelfand popularized this move, b takes c6, which was believed to be not that good, but Boris Gelfand just showed that it's absolutely playable. So now white could play d4, and after c takes d4, queen takes d4, there's pressure against the rook. Therefore f6 is the main move here. However, this pawn can also be just not be taken with a move like bishop to g7. So now let's go back to the game. And Maria Muzychuk decided to castle, and then followed bishop to g7, rook e1, queen to c7. And in order to understand what is happening in this game, it's very important to know that the black player was blitzing out her moves, while white started to think from the next move. So white played c3, and black answered with d6. Now the typical h3. White wants to play d4, but bishop to g4 might be annoying at some point, so it's better to include h3. Knight f6, and now white goes for d4, c takes d4, c takes d4, and now white has a very beautiful center, but black has the pair of bishops here and here, and additionally the c pawn, so black will be able to at least damage the beautiful setup of white, and we will see how. So black castles, and now white plays knight to c3, a very beautiful square for the knight. Therefore c3 was played and not a random knight move, so the knight can go to c3 after d4. Now Vaishali, being well prepared as mentioned, plays c5, and this is the best move. Here was the first time when she took some time, but still compared to her opponent she was blitzing out the game. And now came e5, and this move is scoring incredible bad. An alternative would be d5, but let's continue and see why. e5, d takes e5, d takes e5, and now rook to d8, a very important intermediate move, queen to a4, and now knight to h5. Now this knight looks like it is trapped. It can't move to any square. But playing g4 here, which would also attack the knight, would weaken the knight on f3, and it's not defended by the queen anymore. Neither is it by the pawn on g2 because it's already on g4. Then would follow bishop to b7, and the position is very dangerous for white. Actually, what the engine is saying is rook to e4 to keep the balance. So incredible dangerous position. But let's go back. We don't want an opening discussion here. I just wanted to point out that g4 is not really winning, and it's important to know that, otherwise you would assume that g4 is just ending the game. And other moves which can be played here are bishop to e3, for example, which is fine. There's also bishop to d2. However, Maria Muzychuk decided to play queen to h4, and this isn't a new move. This move has been tested and it failed a couple of times. And I assume that white just didn't know that this move exists, and black is probably well prepared. And that queen h4 is actually not very accurate. So bishop to b7, hitting the knight on f3, which is not defended by a piece. So in worst case, this pawn would be forced to take back and white's position would be very bad, at least on the king's side. Therefore, a move like queen to g4 needs to be played here. But white decided to play e6, a very dynamic move, and if bishop takes f3, then there is this intermediate move e takes f7, and this is the reason why e6 was played. King takes f7, and now g takes f3, and this is a typical position where I would claim that the position is not equal, but equally bad for both sides, because playing with this king's side pawn structure is horrible, but also this king and this knight are not the best pieces here. So let's go back. Vaishali saw this, of course, and played the very strong f5, and now you see the g4 square is guarded by the pawn on f5, and suddenly queen to g4 isn't possible anymore. But Maria Muzychuk had an idea in mind, so she played bishop to g5. She wants to play against the e7 pawn. Bishop takes f3, what else? This was planned and now it's executed. G takes f3. The kingside pawn structure of white is ruined. And now black just plays queen to b7, a double attack against f3 and b2, and black is completely winning. Knight to e2 was played by white. Then followed, of course, queen takes f3 and bishop takes e7, so the material balance is going, or is restored right now. It's 5 pawn against 5 pawns, and this pawn is hanging. But white has a weakness, and the weakness is that the pieces are on wrong squares, and the rook can enter the second rank, and as you can see, g2 and h3 are not covered, or only covered by the king, and there might be checkmating ideas there, or connected to these squares. So bishop takes c5, a desperate attempt, and now it's just losing, because rook takes e2 is winning a piece. Queen c4, trying to play for some tricks, because black should really calculate well here. If black decided to play something like rook takes e1 check, then might follow rook takes e1, bishop e5, rook takes e5, knight f4, threatening checkmate. But there is e7 check, king g7, and queen to f1, and white successfully defended himself against this very dangerous attack. So let's go back and see what move is winning and was played by Vaishali. And this is knight to g3, and this is why I pointed out that g2 and h2 are incredibly weak. This knight now cannot be taken, because this would lead to checkmate in 1 after queen to g2 checkmate. And also there is this threat of queen h1 checkmate. White must do something. Maria Muzychuk decided to play e7 check, and then followed king h8, and white finally decided to give up. Black won. And this entire tournament seems not to be very fortunate for Maria Muzychuk, one of the strongest female players, because she had or almost lost. Yeah, she was losing, but she didn't lose. The previous round, and this game you can check here. So as always, I hope you liked the video. If you want to support the channel, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. See you. Bye.